Welcome back to another chapter of Shinnok's Uprising. Last time, we just encountered the Shokan as they were recruiting and preparing for the war against Shinnok. And Sonya and Johnny stumbled into the cobalt mines, where they actually met the Shokan, and they didn't want to fight them, and Johnny was, all feisty because they remind him of Goro, which took place before this story took place in Shell and Monks Part 2, because I'm going with Johnny against Goro from the movie itself. And they were actually making equipment, and they're actually allying with the Centaurs for once, because they want to save their homelands from Shinnok being dominating. Also, they went through Jade's Desert. Sonya finds Cyrax, which was a little Easter egg. And she eventually dealt with Jarek, and Jax finished him off because he was following her through Adenia. And Sonya wanted to have Jax take Cyrax to their home base. If it weren't for Kung Lao intervening, Sonya might have been killed by Jarek as she fell off the cliff. So, they reunited with Kung Lao and Aiko and Katana with the Saurians, and according to legend, the cobalt armor is said to neutralize Quan Chi's magic. Let's hope the legend is true. So, let's get this thing started. Alright, continuation 5, an unlikely ally. And we're in the formation with Liu Kang and Kai, so here we go. With their team dispersing, Liu and Kai continued to fight off the army of darkness diligently. They were reluctant on running away from the tremendous wave of Shinnok's followers, and they refused to turn tail. However, circumstances were not in the Shaolin's favors, as they were all still overwhelming them despite the more even footing managed contrast to the steep hills as well as the champion's unbeatable prowess. At times, Kai managed to mimic and master some of Liu's legendary maneuvers, including the bicycle kick, the flying kick, yet still it was too much for the esteemed protege, as he was mostly specialized in close combat, including the use of his own Gurkha knife. Seeing his close friend in peril, Liu spotted an opaque hill in his peripheral vision. He then faced and spoke, "Kai!" I can't pronounce that. It's Japanese or Chinese. Kai nodded in confirmation, hid into the hills, while Liu was still in the endless fray. He blocked his face as he conjured up his pyrokinesis, skyrocketing his body temperature. He shot open his eyes, which turned into bright pupils, and moments later his body elongated. The merciless demons hesitated as they saw the awe of his fury. Liu simply just vanished as the olive-green mist encoded him. The serpent itself simply reared back its head and let out all its fatal fiery breath, incinerating the waves. Hell, even the elites as the rear were caught in the crossfire, while they collided into the immobilized demons, making the volley larger. As the thick smoke settled beneath the burnt earth, Liu was back to his human self. Kai couldn't help but feel enthralled at what his sensei can do. This was the first time he witnessed his master's greatest potential yet. He was so fixated that he was knocked to the ground from the side. One of the generals managed to evade the wildfire that was long for Liu to burn him to a crisp. This was just the relief the monk truly needed after the animality, soothing his ardency. He offered Kai a hand in which his partner took. Kai was fine physically, yet still he was despondent, hanging his head. He couldn't help but feel envious as he was defeated while his partner was still standing. And this is the reference to the prequel comic. "Damn it, Liu. I'll never be as good as you. You being the Mortal Kombat champion and all." He calmly answered with a raised finger. "Remember what I told you, Kai. There's more to martial arts than just fighting. You must become one with your inner spirit. Only then can you summon your real inner strength, and have that power that you've only dreamed about. Kai just let out a defeated sigh. Ugh. Then a firm hand landed on his broad shoulder. He looked up and Liu pointed to a distant structure with a domed top. We should head to that tower. We'll gather our bearings and infiltrate the palace from there. I doubt it's likely the army would be suspecting us. Perhaps Katana's trapped along with the fallen Edenians. Liu and Kai reached the utmost floor without incident. The violet and scarlet sky continued to make a dim light into the circular morgue. Liu used his pyrotic skills to light the distant torches, making the space more manageable for their strained eyes. They saw numerous coffins surrounding the center, and they hardly noticed a fallen warrior on top of the altar at the back wall. The decor in this place stinks, Kai retorted, holding his nose. Liu couldn't agree more. Yet still, the monk's eyes examined the area. I see no signs of any of the prisoners here, let alone Katana. Someone must have beaten this poor Edenian here. He mentioned the lifeless humanoid. Somebody's definitely reached their place first. But who? As if on cue, a deafening clang was heard very close by. The arched exit was barred. Then the sarcophagus began to move. Lids popped off, though they didn't belong to some bony nor decaying hands. Instead, more of the Onis and generals came out of hiding and surrounded the heroes. Liu commanded Kai to go back to back, and their eyes covered more ground. They braced for the worst. Then a tiny shriek was heard from above. Kai looked up and noticed they were covered overhead by a massive shadow. Look out! He tackled Liu aside as he staggered when an immense block caved in from the ceiling. It also had massive spikes underneath that seemed to belong to a Tyrannosaurus's incisors. Flexible, opaque warrior leapt and flipped from the top and landed with a thud toward the group. Kai and Kang unshielded their eyes, and they barely made out a male adult with glowing blue eyes and black markings on his face. The monk could have sworn they looked similar to Shang Tsung's. The stranger's gray and white hair at its temples, and basically it's Raiko. I just described him here. He looked like the standard ninja with a maroon sheen, although lacking the traditional face cover, yada yada yada. Who are you? He challenged with his dukes up along with Kai's. The intimidating man declared proudly, I happen to be one of Shinnok's most prestigious generals, Raiko. You two fellow warriors are just in time for your elegy, so it seems. No better time as I see the legendary 3-time champion in my midst. You're one of Shinnok's cronies? What have you done with Katana and the others? Glad you asked, feeble mortal. They barely have time to spare. My master would be pleased if I should rob the lives of both of you. You do well to hurry if you value the Edenians' lives. Though it may be impossible considering our armies are perpetually massive. Clapped his hands. You will both be joining them pretty shortly, humans. I wouldn't bet on that if I were you. And there's another Chinese order. The Tyro nodded as he kept the Onis busy while the champion went on the prowl against Raiko. The elite matched Liu's brute strength and nimbleness, only slightly, with the latter since his armor tended to slow him down. He at first was thrown off by Liu's honed agility, leaving him open for a millisecond. His spiked arm blades gave him the advantage on defense and offense, while he caught Liu off guard when he got too close. With those counters, Liu strategized to keep his distance and unleash his streaks of fire, causing Raiko to back away a few notches. He did block another onslaught with his spiked arms, then took out his club, clobbering them. Raiko charged toward his opponent before he made a jerk and threw his melee weapon toward the champion. Luckily, his crackerjack thinking made him scrunch down, and the club passed over, hitting a bystander general, much to Kai's relief. He finished the demon off and wiped sweat from his forehead before he advanced to the other minions. Raiko threw a few sharp shurikens toward the champion. Two he evaded, but one he abruptly blocked due to its closing distance, and it sliced the side of his arm. He closed in with his bicycle kick, which made Raiko falter. Then he followed with a flying kick, sending his enemy colliding his head against a stone wall. Raiko was stunned upon his impact, as Liu marched up to him. "Release our allies, Raiko!" He slowly rose. "You're out of luck, Earth Roamer!" Spotted the melee Kai was in, fighting a few remaining stragglers, then dissipated through the floor just seconds before Liu was about to mop the floor with a fist. "Ah!" The monk's eyes fixed on Kai, wrapped in one of Aiko's spiked arms in a stranglehold. "Sucker!" The crafty general stormed out as he leapt from a carved opening and dropped into the bleakness with a few stray demons. Liu was unable to catch up to the wounded warrior before he gave him the slip with his good friend at his mercy. Silence fell over the morgue like the dead themselves. Liu never felt this hopeless, nor this vulnerable. First, he lost Katana due to the likes of Quan Chi and Shinnok. Edenia has fallen. He was separated from his friends, and he lost Kai too. He instantly recalled Raiden's words. "No one is champion alone. If one of us is in chains, none of us are free." This definitely filled him with doubt and regret. He only wished Kung Lao, a more skilled, seasoned warrior, was here. He only sulked, and he hardly bared the soft pitter-patter beside him. "Are you the champion, Liu Kang?" Perked up and saw a black face emerge. It drew nearer, the dim light beat out more features. And in walked Tanya. "I am Tanya." The cat certainly got loose tongue, or maybe it was just his tight throat preventing him to speak. Or was it her beauty? She stepped closer to the hurt hero. "I'm so relieved I'd found you. I escaped from the chaotic assault over the Edenian palace. My village was invaded as it was close to it. So, I fled and looked for help. I'm glad I finally came to you." I'm sorry for what has happened. I was looking for my friends, but we were separated, and my good friend Kai was captured." It seems both you and I are alone. We cannot breach the palace unless we should approach it without being noticed." "How? The demonic army and one of Shinnok's generals had caught us at every turn." "I was hoping to find more allies before I should lead them through the subterranean tunnels, but I was gravely mistaken." "Underground tunnels? I'm sure that our enemies have occupied them as well." "No, there are sub-secret passageways leading to the palace, fit for prisoners to escape under the former conqueror's nose. I'd managed to slip in and release only a few." "Is Katana with you?" "I'm afraid not. I needed to hurry and rescue whoever I could. It's likely she's still there, if she's even alive, that is." "Tanya, I must save her, and the other prisoners. Raiko said there's not much time for them." "Alas, there isn't. Do not fret, warrior. I am an Edenian. I've known all the ins and outs since I was young. Shinnok's generals will never take me. I'm a survivor." "All right, I'm counting on you. So many are at stake, including my friends. Of course, I shall accompany you then." Tanya led Liu out of the unsettling keep and through the shadows of Edenia. She was proven to be an expert guide as well as a decent combatant when she assisted Liu in countering the demon hordes with her boomerang, resilience, and her dual-spiked thighs from her sides. Kind of like Melina's. Everything seemed a bit too quiet until they made to a stone slab which reminded Liu of the entrance to the sacred Wuxi Dragon Grotto. Tanya brushed away some dead leaves and branches and revealed the slab. She asked Liu to help her remove it. She found a stray thick branch and asked the champion to light a torch before they descended. Conveniently, there was a sturdy staircase leading into the tunnels, which settled Liu's mind a bit. Tanya's words were true, and escorting the prisoners away. There were some intact stone walls and floors laid out. Liu was intrigued on the Edenians erecting such a place set for runaways. His fascination distracted him that he didn't notice Tanya, who stopped at the center of an archway a few feet away.
Follow me, Liu Kang. Raiden has asked that I lead you to him.
What about the others?
He has something special planned for them.
Well, I had to cut it short. What about the others? I haven't seen them yet. I had only seen Katana and Kai here. Those were the only warriors I'd recognized. He continued to follow her through what seemed to be an abandoned tomb, which had a jagged stone wall. Wait! Lou was startled as she heard another female voice from behind. He looked, but there was no one except him. A green stiletto stomped on a piece of limestone in the ground, which dropped. Suddenly, two metal slabs collided vertically in front of the duo. What? Tanya was astonished and irritated, and Lou stormed toward the trap door, failing to pry it apart. She was then impaled by a thrown tri-blade. He then rushed to her aid. Don't, champion! Don't! There was that voice again. But another lit torch made out a female ninja clad in emerald. It was Jade! Let it be! Tanya continued to struggle. That voice! With her quick reflexes, Tanya threw the weapon back, but the other ninja knocked it away with a steel fan. I should have known you'd be here. I can't believe you're still alive. Same to you. I will rectify this mistake. Lucha stood there, still as a statue, while the two lethal women clashed. There was just no way he wanted to fight against a woman, even though he once fought against three, when the Green Ninja jogged his memory. Nor was he sure whom he should trust. His mind was at an absolute stalemate, especially upon the failure of protecting Kai. I don't blame him. And there's the style. Pardon me if the text is blurry. Dicing every blow. That was until the Jade Woman outsmarted Tanya as she made a charge with the blazing nitro kick, which surrounded her in the same aura and reminded Lou of Johnny's shadow kick. Tanya wasn't done, as she made her own counters with her human cannon drill, the airfire blast, and surging blast, each move accompanied by swift kicks and pyrokinesis from her legs. The heroine kept blocking and charging at Tanya's legs, attempting to mobilize her. She then came up with the same strategy, no different than with katanas, always about the legs. Katana. Could she be? Before Tanya got up, the Green Lady made another charge, only this time her staff went through the betrayer's body. Take that, Scrappy! She became limp before it collapsed into pieces. The victor twirled her staff, getting rid of any drips of blood, before she put it in her back scabbard. She headed to the stupefied monk. Long time no see, eh, champion? That woman over there was Tanya. You had been fooled. She was just about to lure you into a trap. Heh, don't sweat it. She's always a traitor anyway. Jade? About time you recognized me. She stated she was following the Edenian rebel and averted Lou's death, slaughtering the holier-than-thou backstabber. Well, that's a relief. It wasn't uncommon on foolish, hapless denizens taking on Tanya's superficial charm and false intellect. Like some people I know. Jade confessed she knew the monk whom he, along with Kung Lao, straight up murdered both her and Melina a couple of years ago atop the tower. Lou just hung his head in remorse on making the mistake killing off Katana's best friend. Shh! Don't say a word, mortal. To be fair, perhaps I and Katana were both brainwashed by Khan. However, thanks to Raiden, I was brought back to life. Better than being in those vile flesh pits. Lou figured something happened to the princess since Edenia and the palace had been invaded, but Jade assured it was something transpiring to her. She would have sensed something amiss. They'd known each other for millennia, after all. She was also well aware of the Elder God's crisis against the fallen demon Shinnok. She hypothesized he employed the necromancer Quan Chi, and they'd be useless without each other. Apparently, she saw Liu Kang as her soul was imprisoned in the soul tombs after her body was brutally battered by the two Shaolin monks. He brought up the tombs had been destroyed since the last time he and Lao faced off Baraka and Shaolin monks. She remembered after ascending, waking up in a bright fountain courtesy of Raiden. Liu concluded it had been the Jinsei chamber that brought her back. Ever since her resurrection, Jade was anxious to reunite with his best friend once more, as was he aside from regrouping with Kai and his lost friends. She was impressed in how much Edenia prospered before Shinnok's invasion. Thusly, this proved that Khan had finally been overthrown and destroyed after 10 millennia, and she knew from Raiden that Liu Kang was destined as the Chosen One. So, will you lend me your assistance in rescuing Kitana? Consider them yours, champion. She plucked out Tanya's discarded weapons, and they were on their way. Minutes later, the metal slabs were blasted apart with extreme force as much as TNT. With a raised hand, Quan Chi stepped out of the would-be prison and noticed the chamber and stairwell were deserted, excepting for a bloody, decimated female corpse. He clenched his hand into a tight fist. You have failed, Tanya! He looked into the dark void and vowed to destroy the champion himself. You should be lucky Tanya hasn't used her deadly boomerang or be her next victim. Jade led Liu Kang through some thick brushes toward the palace. She described who treacherous Tanya really was. I've killed her before several millennia ago, after she tried to frame me wearing my garb as a disguise, and accusing me of slaying fellow Edenians, though Kitana never believed it. We sent her to the Netherrealm. I can't believe Quan Chi and Shinnok helped her escape from that eternal prison. Wait, how did you know so much about her? Who is she? Summarized Tanya was a slender woman from Edenia, originally appearing to be an apparent innocent. Her main method was deception. Jada and Tanya witnessed she was quickly revealed to be corrupt by evil, a worshipper of Shinnok no less, and an ally to the Brotherhood of Shadow. Jade was relieved she killed her before she would serve the likes of the aggressor, Shao Kahn. She said that aside from her treachery and sexy appeal, Tanya also had face-style beauty and smarts, as she always claimed to herself as a survivor more than anything else, justifying her choices as being the right decisions. She and Kitana knew she was absolute malice, as she prided herself on her superior knowledge of magic and diplomacy. Because of her frequent betrayals of the Edenian cause, she was earned the rivalry and bitter hatred of Jade, particularly as well as others who fell prey to her duality in ferocious ways. Like I said, champion, you are not alone. Oh good, I'm almost done. The ground shook and a large deep boom was heard in the distance. The two warriors hesitated and their ears soon adjusted to muffled shouts and war cries, along with metal mingling with them. Jade tiptoed forward and looked over a hill toward the flickering lights beside the city below. Kitana must have sent the cavalry. She had to recruit all the Edenians, including the... Trying to confirm her reasoning, then she leapt in a sprint. What? How do you know? Is it really Kitana? It must be Kitana! It must be! Kitana! Liu desperately followed Jade toward the distant war. I couldn't stand Tanya's ending while I was looking for ideas on this fic. It always bothered me how gullible Liu Kang was, even as far as his friends went. Just another scrappy eliminated. I feel so vindicated here. Also, I tried using the polls on Twitter to see which faction I want to cover. However, they never gave me any relief to my indecision, as both polls resulted in a tie. Thank you, guys! Sorry to any Kai fans out there for me trying to make him have a tad of potential, but not enough. I just didn't have a lot of ideas, considering he's a newbie. I wanted Liu to be more vulnerable, as the champion isn't always unstoppable. It was kind of formulaic on recruiting other races with the previous chapters. After all, it led up to the elimination of Tanya, and since she hates Jade, What can be better? I threw in some Chinese cues via online translator for lulz just to prove that Kung Lao, Liu Kang, and Kai can be bilingual characters. Eat your damn heart out, Overwatch. Kai has to be considering he's Liu's disciple. Okay, yeah, it was intentional in allying Jade with Liu Kang as it kind of followed the same idea from Annihilation, which came out the same year as foreign mythologies. But what the hell? As we all know, there are worser installments out there, so Annihilation's like the lesser of several evils. On a side note, I can see 4 being similar to separating party members like Final Fantasy VI and Sonic Heroes, each faction having their own difficulty and style before reuniting for the climax, even though the former failed. And there are the songs for that. So, I'm glad I got rid of Tanya. Can't stand her. Phew, only one more faction to cover. This time with Sub-Zero and Nightwolf. Ugh, can't wait to get this over with. Until then, this is the Ikran Writers signing out, so stay tuned.